sick, so I'm gonna just go ahead and edit this and put it in the front.
Yeah, there's some MCs putting some miles down, but there's a shit ton more that ain't.
Everybody wants to be a boat guy when they're little.
Hey, what's going on, Mac Black?
What's good, Simon? How you doing?
Shit, another day, another day. All right, we got Chris on board now.
What's going on, fellas?
What's up with
Good to
you,
see
brother?
Not much, man. Just keeping the main thing the main thing. How are y'all doing?
Shit, I'm good.
Right
Ah,
on.
I'm good. Yeah, been a long time since we've been on the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, last one I did was the one with D and Dirt. The one about mental health in the MC community.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
was a while ago.
right,
man.
right.
A lot of changes since then. How's everything going in y'all's neck of the woods? Everything staying all fresh and clean and beautiful?
Florida is Florida.
Right on.
Yeah, Florida is Florida. We could be over there on with Mac Black chilling.
Right on.
Yeah.
Legit. Be some good times.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are we talking about today, gentlemen?
So today we're supposed to be talking about individual updates and stages of club life is what we were slotted for. So,
Oh, right on.
I know I can start out if y'all want me to.
Yeah, why not?
Um, we'll, we'll do the individual updates, I guess. Since the last time we did last time we did a podcast, or at least I did a podcast. um, as far as the club goes, I stepped down from my national position, and went back to chapter level. Um, I've been in leadership roles since I've been in the club, so it's been kind of nice, to take that little bit of a break. Supposedly, anyway, you still get the same 8 million phone calls, um, and you still get all the questions. I was a national officer for 7 years, so so a lot of people they're going to do what's comfortable and still continue to reach out um, to individuals that they trust, or they're comfortable talking to. So,
Well, yeah, hey
um,
man, it doesn't matter. You can step back from a position, but you're always going to retain the knowledge, and people are going to seek out the knowledge to help build their own toolbox for stuff in the future. So,
right,
unfortunately, that's just how it works.
right, right. So yeah, so I did that. Yeah, I've had a few personal wise. I've had a few medical setbacks. I broke my foot. What, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. Tore my medial meniscus in my knee. Um, so I just had knee surgery done on the 25th of February. So I'm in physical therapy for that, trying to get it back to normal. It's painful as a bitch.
I
So
bet.
yeah, so I'm dealing with that, and just had another grandchild. So
Congrats.
my fifth.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Congrats.
thank you. It's my fifth one. So I've been chasing grandkids and doing the grandpa thing, the pop thing. So that's been enjoyable.
Oh yeah, long live the pop pops.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
That's
and
good.
I was telling Mac Black before we came live. I'm in the process of selling my home. It's under contract. Relocating a little bit north of where I am now, and got me a little bit of acreage, and I'm gonna build a new home up there with a nice big garage and swimming pool and all that shit. So, um, try to enjoy this retired life.
Oh yeah, pop pops
There you
playland.
go.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's gonna be too. So, But that's about it on my update, I think. So whoever's next.
Take it away,
Uh,
Mac.
okay. So 2023, I moved from the States to enjoy island life. I'm still enjoying island life. I moved from, as far as club wise, I'm still active. I moved from my national position, but I moved into a role that's still, it's still a national role, but it's for the nation, and it's just as hectic as ever. Um, I've had a few personal issues with blood pressure, but I pretty much got that cleared up. I am officially a grandfather. Uh,
Congrats.
Oh
my
yeah,
my
congratulations.
my grandson is he's walking, talking, and just creating havoc everywhere he goes. He likes to call me a chicken nugget, so that's his thing. Um, you know, living on the island has its pros and cons. The MC life is definitely different. It is definitely different. So, um, you know, I did start a another podcast, and I'm not going to mention it here because I'm not here to advertise it. It has absolutely nothing to do with MC culture, MC life. It's just some of the weird, quirky things that I'm into. That's all. So, you know,
Right on.
so I keep myself busy. You know, I still ride, still get suited and put the uniform on and do what I do. And
Hell
I'm
yeah.
enjoying
so
retired life.
so how does that work on the island? How does club life work? Um because here in the states, you jump on your bike and you can go to, Alabama, South Carolina, Virginia, Minnesota. You know what I mean? You can jump on your bike and just roll for days, and there's thousands of clubs, from coast to coast. How does that work on the island itself?
So it is a smaller amount of clubs. The island where I'm at, you can either ride around the island and make it a full day, or you can be the adventurous type and go through the mountains and jungle, and I can't promise you that the roads are going to be complete. I'm just,
Right.
um, it, there are some of the same clubs in the States that are here. And the thing about the island being smaller is most of these people in all these different clubs are related. So it's a different dynamic on how they interact with one another.
Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha.
it's I would say it's since I've been here, it's less beef than what I've encountered in the States.
Yeah, it would seem, like here in the states, every dominant club, I think in every state, they all of them are like, hey, we're closed, we have enough clubs, um it would seem like on an island, that would be strictly enforced,
It is.
because how many clubs can you possibly have on an island? um what's the reason for starting there? What are you doing that the other, 5 clubs, 10 clubs on that
Yes.
island are not doing? You know what I mean? What are you going to bring different to the table, when you're in an island mass that size?
And it definitely is. And I will tip my hat and say, that I'm grateful to those that came before me that taught me a different way about earning respect and standing by your words and your actions. Because when I first landed here, it was definitely a no, no, no. And you have to get out and create those bonds, relationships, and do your work. And, the fact that I live here is what was one of the main differences too. It's like I'm not
Right.
going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
It would seem like it would make a difference on, the old phrase, club jumpers. that would be a minimized as well. Because
It is.
here, if you don't like a club in Florida, you can go to Georgia, or you can go to South Carolina, or you can go to, you know, Ohio. You can jump clubs, and really start a new start everywhere you go. Whereas on the island, when you're out and bad with one club, you know, everybody knows it.
Hmm.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, so that seems like that would be a benefit of being on the island for sure.
Well, and it's as far as like how we refer to like 99 set. You know, there's differences here than in the states because in the states most of your 99, I won't say all of them because some do, but most of your 99 don't wear state rockers. Whereas over here, you'll see your 99 and they'll have on the island rocker. And you're like, it took me a little bit of adjusting to see that. And then like your diamond clubs here, some of them wear the island, but most of them don't.
Right,
So
right.
it
Huh.
was it took some getting used to seeing like looking at different patches and you're like, wait a minute. So,
Well, yeah.
but
I mean, I saw some of that in Hawaii when I was out in Hawaii. You look at Hawaii, yeah, it's part of the United States, but it's kind of its own country on its own, being so disconnected. There's a lot of customs and things like that that are very specific to the region. So I
yes,
can definitely see that being a tough nut to crack when you're first there and being an outsider, but then once all that mud checking, all the showing class, the stuff like that goes around, and people look at you as a stand-up dude. Well, it once you become family there, you stay family there, and I would imagine that the relationships across clubs are probably a bit better than they are. Uh, you know, when it could be the same thing in a county within a state or a region within a couple of states. You know what I mean? I think it's just easier to maintain those relationships because you got nowhere to go. You can only ride for so long, and then it's ocean in every direction.
yes.
Right, right.
Kind of
So
forces that work together, go along to get along type of shit, rather than a bunch of knuckleheads running around. And I'm not saying that everybody in the states is knuckleheads, but most of the shit that happens in the states is you get a rogue knucklehead or two that decide that they want to go have a great time, which is great, but it can cause months of fucking carnage
yes,
Yeah,
over a
yeah,
weekend.
yeah.
but as far as my updates, that's pretty much it. Chris, if you want to update us on everything you've been going on with you.
Well, mine's a bit different. I've been out of the I've been out of the club scene, or actively out of the club scene. Still have friends and stuff that are in it. Um, we we folded the club as a whole back in 22. Um, not far, not too long. We managed to go a couple years after our founder passed away. That was just such a huge blow that it really changed up some stuff within the fellas, and you know succession planning. It's all the stuff that we were writing about pretty heavily back a few years ago, talking about you know kind of the overreach of a founder, or what makes a founder, and continuing to wear that kind of stuff, or whatever, and making sure that the mentality is there to kind of pass the torch. Our club just never got to that point where we really looked at succession planning. So unfortunately, it made it maybe 9 months before its 20-year mark of the club as a whole. Um, so the entirety of the club is no more. There's still a few of us, that um, realized that our brotherhood definitely went beyond the patch. Was more about the men that were wearing the patch. So there's about 4 or 5 dudes that I still. I mean, I'll travel to California from Nevada to go see them. I'm still flopping on their couch when I'm in town. They know every time they come out to Nevada that they don't need a hotel room. Um, Things like that. Um, and around that same time, my stroke stuff started pretty hard. I just had my 13th TIA mini stroke last Sunday, um, in the past 5 years. So that's still going. All my teeth are gone now. Had to get all those taken out. Waiting on my new set of dentures um, from the VA. Just had a lot of appointments. I'm really getting involved now with my local VFW. Um, Replacing or finding a different. I wouldn't say replacing. Replacing is a bad word. Um, a different avenue in brotherhood, right? Um, there is nothing that will ever replace what I found in the MC uh, in my particular club, and then in the MC world as a whole. You know, uh, I had looked at some other clubs and thought about going in those directions, but I just didn't find the same thing. And I'm not a person that can be half in, half out. Um, I gave him a good look. No disrespect to either one of the two, and I won't name them. I'm sure that people that know me know which clubs I'm talking about. So there's no disrespect. I still chop it up with dudes that are active members of each organization. I just didn't find a similar home. And for me, what made the MC community for me was my home first, and then
Mhm.
everything else that came with it was badass. But that's only because I had a great home. So I I ride every now and again with a VFW riders. It's not a RC. It's not a RG. It's not nothing. It's a bunch of veterans that do veteran shit on 2 wheels instead of four. Um, there's a lot of things going on a national scale where the VFW is trying to really get all those groups together, so there's less kind of chaos between the different states and different ways that things are done. Um, and I'm kind of more of a mascot there. I'm like a conduit to folks that rock an MC cube out here. If they have any questions, they can come and talk to me. I can let them know what's going on. But I've really poured a lot of my effort into my local post. Um, and I am also now, I guess we can call this one the Pop or the Grandpa podcast, because I have a 7-month old beautiful grandbaby girl. Um,
Congrats.
Thank you very much. And I am also a Pop.
Yeah.
Um, and that has definitely sparked a different way of attacking, I guess, the things that are going on with me health wise, um, and is really prioritizing a little bit more with stuff like that. Um, but yeah, man, I did sell my bike. Right now, I have another one that I ride every once in a while on occasion. Um, and I miss it. Life behind bars is definitely a life sentence, and it's one that I was hoping to do for a long time. But I think Pop's gonna end up being on a little on 2 wheels just in town,
Yeah.
and maybe I'll get me a trike for those longer rides. With my hands and my feet going numb without uh, warning these days, I knowing my luck, I'd end up getting to a wreck, killing a family of 4 in a minivan, and me living through it because only the good die young. So I'll probably be 100. Um, but other than that, just kind of trying to enjoy getting the getting bigger squeezes out of life than I've been able to over the past couple years, and kind of refocusing efforts and stuff like that. Um, being out of the MC community, it definitely makes me look at things in with a different lens or a different perspective. Um, and having folks that didn't know me when I was rocking leather, uh, talking to me about things because they didn't know where I came from, and they're like, "Oh, well, these guys are those guys," and I'm like, and I just sit there and I listen, and then I can give them a different perspective from a guy that used to be these guys or those guys, and you know, just having those folks hearing it from somebody that's not wearing leather that they might look at as, I don't know, a little bit more respectable or whatever, meaning that they don't really know me. Um, it definitely has changed some folks' opinions of folks that choose what is you guys' way of life, what used to be mine. Um, and so that's nice being able to be um, a spokesman of sorts from time to time.
Right.
Definitely understanding the way the mind works. Um, especially when somebody sits there and they go, I'll never wear something that says old lady on it. And I'm like, God damn it. It is
Yeah.
so not a term of disrespect. It is like the biggest respect. Property of is nothing but the MC wedding ring. That doesn't mean that you're going to get, your head bounced off a wall or passed around at a clubhouse. It means that you're a treasured addition to that person's life. And they will, yeah, disrespect somebody's property of, and you'll find out exactly how much, and with how much respect and regard that man thinks about that lady. So
Right. Right.
it's definitely not one of those things that you should test the waters on.
Just had that conversation.
Well, I can tell you, I respect the shit out of you for looking at the couple of clubs that you looked at, and giving them a chance, and because they didn't fit um, the mold, I guess you could say, of what you were looking for, that you walked away. I respect the shit out of that. Prior to again going live, Mac Black and I were having a conversation, and one of the things that I had said was, some people have different agendas, so a lot of people, even though the club may not be exactly what they're looking for, um, it may be that they join a club almost for a payback, um, for who maybe they used to be a member of.
Mhm.
Right.
Like I'm going to
Yeah.
join this club because they don't like that club. I'm going to join Club A because they don't like Club B. And I was in Club C, so I can fuck with Club B now. Because Club A doesn't like Club B. You
And
know,
that's why nobody should take somebody else's garbage. Like, I mean, if you leave in good standings, what beef would you have with the club? You know what I mean? Like, why try to turn Club B into a revenge club against Club A?
correct,
Right.
correct.
And if you're going in there, you should be going in there with solid intentions, not intentions of trying to mold a club in your image. You're supposed to be, I mean, all these clubs have been in existence for years. It's obviously working. So you can go
Yeah.
in and you can add something to it, but don't think that your existence within that club and you trying to change it to a different agenda, you're not, don't think that that's an addition. You're taking away from that club. You're
Yeah,
bringing
Oh,
your
oh,
bullshit into that club instead of bringing open eyes, experience, knowledge, and that desire to be a part of it, rather than some type of fucking just bullshit within you that makes you want to,
Yep.
oh, hey, look at me shit. Nah, that's not what a
Yeah.
club's about. It's supposed to be, hey,
Yeah.
look at us.
Yeah.
And
What
and
was up, Mac?
I definitely agree with him on that because you will have people come and join, and they'll bring their own personal shit to the club and try to make it the club shit, and that's just not what it is. You
Yeah.
know, uh, I don't. So Chris, I have a ton of respect for you. You have a lot of guys that when they leave a club, and even if that club doesn't fit their mold, they'll have their own agenda to try to hijack it to make it fit their mold. They'll be chasing power or a position so they can turn it to what they want it to be. So like a ton of respect goes out to me from me to you because it's just like if it didn't fit what you were looking for, you didn't join. And that in itself is righteous.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like what you're talking about, Chris. It's like when you build a house, right? Or you buy a house. Um, it's not, and what I'm basically saying is when you go from one club to another, right? It's like moving into from one house to another, a pre-existing house, right? Like a
Hmm.
pre-existing club. Well, you can change all the walls and shit that you want to, right? To make
Yeah,
the house better,
as
right? To
long as they're not
remodel
load
it,
bearing.
right? But when you start fucking with those load bearing walls and you
Yep.
start chipping away the concrete that the house sits on, right? The shit crumbles,
Yep.
right? And guys tend to forget that. Um, you can no different than the bylaws, right? You can add to, but you can't take away from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The club itself as a whole, man, the club's been around for years, 50 years, 40 years, 30 years, whatever it is. And if it's been successful, don't don't bring your ideology in and take away from that foundation.
Right.
Bring something that's going to help build the club, not even in numbers wise, but help build as far as the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the loyalty, the dedication, the
Yeah.
commitment. Build that. It doesn't have to be by putting soldiers in, you know,
Right.
or putting guys in cuts. Doesn't have to be built it that way. There's numerous ways to build a club.
Hmm.
But yeah, when you start chipping away at them load bearing walls and that foundation, that whole fucker's coming down.
Yep.
And to touch on another thing, you were talking about the founder. Man, that's such a crazy position, isn't it?
Yeah.
um, especially when you're talking about old school founders. We're not talking about a 2 year fucking wonder club, right?
Right.
We're talking about old school guys, right?
Decades.
Yeah, decades. Um, and the founders is such a hard position because yes, you founded the club, right? But are you any better than that guy that patched in last night?
Not supposed to be.
You're not supposed to be, right? I mean, you naturally you're going to have more respect because you did found the club, right? You founded the club as a whole. Without that founder, the club wouldn't be in existence, right?
Right. But respect is not a position.
That's correct. Absolutely correct. So it that founder can get center punched just as fast as that guy that passed in last night can get center punched.
Yep.
But often you see, and I've met them. You see founders that they expect a different level of treatment than myself or Mac Black, or you know what I mean. They want this higher level of treatment, and it really shouldn't be that way. The bylaws are straightforward across the board.
Well,
Unless you're in some fucked up club that says the founders got some kind of preferential treatment.
well,
You know,
now, now that Silent has thrown me out there, so I am one of the founders of the club I'm in,
Right.
right?
and for me, being a founder doesn't mean I'm better than you. It means I now have to work harder to make sure that you know what this was founded on, the direction we're going, and as a founder, for me, it's like I have to work that much harder to make sure that you're doing shit the right way. It doesn't mean I'm better than you. It means if you go out there and do some dumb shit and you knew a founder and he didn't guide you away from the dumb shit, then what good are your founders? It's
Mhm.
like I owe an obligation to my nation, to the guys that we're bringing in, to like, hey, what are we teaching them? What do they know? It's like not just our history, the history from the MC culture in its totality.
Hmm.
You get guys that come in and they think that being a founder means, okay, I don't pay dues anymore. I just get to drink and party. Nah, it's much more than that. It's deeper than that.
Yeah,
You
well, I
should
mean,
look,
as a founder, you now have the obligation, right? And I say obligation, not a requirement, but an obligation to preserve or attempt to preserve what it is that you founded, right? What it
yes,
is you started, and I can imagine, I'm not a founder, of course, but I can imagine that that's got to be tough as a founder too, to watch as your club grows. Um,
Out of your control because
yeah, and
yes,
how
you're getting
much? Yeah,
outvoted, homie.
exactly. How much control do you lose because you have these youngsters that want to take your club to a different direction that in which you founded that club for. You know what I mean?
yep.
Like you founded it to go to the left at this intersection, but the youngsters are like, "Fuck that, we're going to the right." And can you control it? Can you put a stop to it? I mean, I don't know. It's a tough spot.
And that's the
So
thing about
like,
organic growth rather than forced growth, right? With organic growth, you can take that seedling, that young hang around, that young prospect, and you can take the time and the effort to put in that work to have those conversations, to build, to foster and nurture that sense of brotherhood that you founded your club on, and you can grow that member to have the same type of thought process to an extent. But
right.
with forced growth, you don't have enough founders to be able to nurture each one of those saplings. So
No,
you
you
can
Right.
get
don't.
voted out within a couple of years, and your club can go completely to the left when you were wanting it to go to the right. And hey, you didn't do a good job as a
And,
founder at that point then, because you
and,
just grew your club too fast and you got your ass kicked the fuck out of it, kind of thing.
and now, to that point though, it also depends on that club and what they have dictated for the founders in their constitution as far as their accountability and responsibilities to the club. You know, you have certain things put in place, but if you're looking at it realistically, wholeheartedly, the longevity is that your nation is going to outlive the founders.
That's
And
that's
at
the
that,
hope.
yeah, and at that point, though, you hope to have the ones coming behind you to know that they have that concrete, solid foundation on what you wanted to, what the vision you had when you started.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So,
And you can
you
and
know,
you can outgrow that vision.
you
I've
can.
said it before on previous podcasts. Naturally, Grub was our founder. God is good, Grub is great. Okay. Grub's mentality was, when I don't know every member in this nation's name, we have gotten too big. All
Right.
right. That was his mentality. Um, so again, going back to what we had spoken about, Mac Black was growth is a double edged sword. While it can be great, it can be devastating. If you don't grow smartly, then
Hmm.
you die, right? I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to name any names, but there's four, three of us on this podcast, and we know that there is top 1% clubs, right? Top five, top 10,
Yeah.
whatever the fucking feds deems, this number
Yes.
system. Um, but we know that there's top 1% clubs that had kick ass reputations fucking 10 years ago, you know?
Oh yeah.
and that have grown leaps and bounds, um, and ruined their reputation because of how they grew, and taking members from other clubs and growing the way that they did. They didn't grow smartly, they grew overnight, and that's a problem because it's not doing the organic growth that you're referring to, Chris. Is you're not bringing guys in as fucking unofficial hangarounds and getting to know them, and then making them hangarounds for 6 months or a year, and getting their feet wet into the process of your nation, and then probating them, or prospecting them, whatever your club calls them. um, to go through this organic growth of watching them as a seedling, right? Like you're saying, and eventually become a fucking 80-foot pine tree.
Yep.
You know, um, they bring them in and they expedite them through this fucking process, uneducated, and expect them to be doing the right things at the right times, and so on and so forth. And it doesn't work that way. Mackie, that's the same thing you're referring to.
Oh
You
yeah.
you got to do it smartly, or you will ruin your club overnight. And it's happened. We've seen them, and we see the same clubs in the news damn near daily.
Yes.
From these guys that I don't know. I don't even know if they're trying to fix their shit or if they're just overwhelmed, and can't fix it because, like you were talking about as a founder, is it too far gone that now we're just trying to survive it?
Right. Well, one thing is, man, weeds grow a lot faster than grass,
Yeah.
and
True.
weeds become a problem. And when weeds start taking over your lawn, at some point, you might have to go straight back to mulch.
Yeah. They
It's a
choke your
fact.
grass out.
It's a fact. So, and that's where what you're talking about growing smartly, and that's what you're talking about, Mac, with making sure that in the statement in the bylaws, that the bylaws are built in a way that allows for organic growth, that definitely 100% shuns overnight growth, and has a clear definition of what the role of a founder is after 5 years, after 10 years, after
Yeah.
15 years, right? And and how that looks. That, yeah, there's no problem, man. Like there is zero problems whatsoever with tipping your hat to the guy that created the patch that you now have on your back. But you got to remember that when you accepted that patch, you entered into a contract not with the club members themselves, but with the bylaws. And every
Yes.
club member that accepts that patch, he's got a brotherhood, absolutely, with the man standing to his left and his right, but his ass belongs to the bylaws.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring up the bylaws because all too often members don't fucking read them. I don't know why. Because you work for this goal. Everything is a goal, right? When you become a hang around, you get this little pamphlet that says this is what you can do and this is what you can't do, and then you become a probate and you get another set of marching orders, say this is what you can do and this is what you can't do, and then you get educated, and then when you become a patch, you should get the national bylaws, right? Or even a chapter bylaws if your chapter has them, and that's the gospel. So if these guys wonder, like, well, I didn't know that, why didn't somebody tell me that? And I'm like, motherfucker, they're
Exactly.
in the bylaws. Did you read them?
Right there in front of you. Yes.
Yeah.
Was and that was the one thing I guess that was the one thing that maybe made mine different. Like, the club that I used to be a part of. Um, I don't know anybody else's protocol because I never got that far with it. Um, but in in my 1% organization that no longer exists, at a certain point in your prospecting period, once you got through, there was a milestone that you got through where um, you ended up getting an extra patch, and it was a big deal, and it was the side rocker of the charter. once you got through a certain period of months, not weeks, not days, not minutes, not number of drinks at the bar, but months. And it was a good amount of months. Um, your sponsor would brought you into church with nobody else in church, and he sat there, broke out the bylaws, and sat there next to you, and you read them. Because
Yeah.
how can you enter into a contract with the bylaws if you don't even know what the hell they say until you make patch
Right.
or
Right.
make member or patch out or patch in or however the hell you want to say it?
Yeah.
But
That's
how
a
can
good
you
theory.
enjoy?
I never
Well,
thought about that.
I'm
Yeah, so
I'm
we read
glad
them.
that I'm glad
Go
that you
ahead.
said that. So the chapter, the position I'm in, there's a chapter of us. And when you come into that chapter, your our chapter bylaws are read, explained, and then you sign for them,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
acknowledging that you have read and understood these things that you're signing up for. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you said that. But I think that's the thing that's lost. You have people that pass off a constitution and you're like, did you read it? Yeah. And they'll just take it at face value. And you should never do that.
Right.
Yeah, 10
Oh,
years ago, man, when I patched in, every member that voted me in, because it had to be unanimous, every member that voted me in, man, they signed the back of my patch, and then it got
yeah.
sewed on my back, and that was my that was my that was them signing off on me and me signing off on them.
Yeah, and it's the same with chapter bylaws,
Hmm.
right? I know there's chapters that don't have chapter bylaws. And I guess to each his own. Um, to me, that's scary. Not having a set of chapter bylaws is just as scary as not having a set of national bylaws.
Yes.
And the reason why is, what are the fucking rules? You
Right.
know, what can you do? What can't you do? If you do something wrong, what's the repercussions for it? You know, um, when you don't have a set of bylaws, it's chaos, right? Um,
Yes.
Disciplinary shit comes down to who's the boss at the time, right? Um, how does he feel about certain shit, and does he like you or does he not like you? Because you leave yourself open. Like, if I do something wrong and the guy next to me does something wrong, and the chapter boss, um he likes me, so I get a slap on the wrist, but he doesn't like that guy, so he gets $1,000 fine and center punched.
Right.
But we did the exact same thing.
Right.
Yep.
It leaves room for that when there shouldn't be. I should get the exact same punishment that he got. you know and it
Right.
shouldn't matter who the boss is. All right. If the boss is cool with me, the next boss may not be cool with me, but he's cool with him. So by having a set of chapter bylaws, it lays the foundation down and says, "Hey, man, if you spit on the fucking sidewalk, this is the repercussion for it, and it doesn't
Right.
matter who you are."
Yep.
Right. Well, and
You know?
it also keeps the boss in line, right? It
Yeah.
it it
Exactly.
keeps it keeps the boss in line, and it keeps the ambiguity out of it, and it keeps everybody living by the same code of conduct. So
Right.
whether you call it chapter bylaws, uh, chapter code of conduct, you know, standard operating procedure, however the hell you want to say it, but the
Right.
do's and don'ts of the locale, rather than which always is going to be stricter than the national. Or the club
Correct.
bylaws say this, and we can always go stricter as a state, or we
Yeah.
can go
Yes.
stricter as a region. We can go even stricter as a state, and then we can go even stricter as a county, and go even stricter as a chapter within the county. What we can't do is take away from, but we can always add to.
Correct.
At, at
Exactly.
but you got to sit around the table and you got to hash that out as a chapter or a charter or whatever you want to call it. Right?
Right.
I prefer charter because it takes out those four little words that or that the four little letters that another three-letter organization likes to use a lot.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Suave.
Yeah.
It takes that out of it, but at the same time, it keeps everybody knowing what time it is,
Yeah.
right? You don't want people running willy-nilly, half-cocked, just deciding to go ahead and start something on a Saturday night that you're going to have to deal with for the next 3 months that might erode 20 years of friendship between two clubs because of
Yeah.
two fucking knuckleheads that never
Yep.
read any page bylaw line item number one,
Yeah.
right? So how can you get on somebody when they plead ignorance because it wasn't built that way for them to understand what they were signing up for in the first place?
Right.
It's hard.
And guys like you, Mac, as a founder, you know, I'm sure you did it because I know we've talked about it before. When you deal with the bylaws, you have to make sure that your bylaws are not written for today, right?
Mhm.
Exactly.
And I tell the guys this: when you're writing bylaws, you need to write them for 5 years from now, or write them for 10 years from now.
Yes.
You need to everything you're dealing with now is not going to be everything that you're dealing with, a year from now or 2 years from now. And you don't want to be changing your bylaws every fucking 6 months,
No,
so you got to kind of look into the future, and I know it, Mac, as a founder, I'm quite sure you did that, with your nation, as
Oh,
you looked at, hey, where are we going to be at in 5 years, or where are we going to be at in 10 years,
yeah.
and we need to adjust our bylaws accordingly, for that.
And that's what you want. You want a set that, like you said, that you're not voting to change every 6 months, that you're not coming together to have to change every year. Your bylaws should extend into the next 15 to 20 years, is what I look at. You shouldn't. There's no reason you should be changing your bylaws, your constitution every year. There's no reason for it.
Right. And I mean, there's no reason for it. Realistically, I
I
know there's no reason for it, but
I
we all
understand there's
do it.
extenuating circumstances, but
Yeah, yeah, because it's like the military, right? We're all military guys. The reason why everything has labels is because some dumbass has done it.
hmm
What I mean?
yes.
Don't stick your tongue on the frozen flagpole. You
hmm
know, that's why we have cautionary shit. But that's why we have to constantly change our bylaws. And Chris, I know you had to do it, and Mac, I know you're still having to do it. Is because in the club life, at least in 1% clubs, right? All of us have been in 1% clubs. Um, is you have those people that they're gonna find a fucking loophole in the
right.
Yes.
bylaws,
Because they're
right?
not
Because
supposed to be written to be airtight.
correct, they're not. They're yes, it's a set of rules, but it's also, some people will say it's a set of guidelines, right?
Right,
But it's the way they're written. They're supposed to be written, first of all, in layman's terms, right? Not written by a professor at the fucking
right.
Baylor University, right? That's not how they're supposed to be written. They're supposed to be written so that I think the rule was like a fifth grade education or something, sixth grade education. I forgot what the actual rule was. But uh damn, I just lost my track of thought that fucking quick. Um,
You said you were talking about being written in layman terms and being able to be understood, but and also not being airtight.
yeah, and yes, correct. But that's why we have to keep constantly changing them, because you have these barracks lawyers, is what we used to call them, in the service, that
Yeah,
they will find every little loophole. Like, well, it doesn't say that I can't,
Right.
but it doesn't say that I can, so you can't really punish me. So
Right.
okay, fucker. Now we got to go back into the bylaws and we got to readjust them because you're exploiting a loophole.
because the
And
E4 mafia strikes again.
Yeah, yeah. The E4 Mafia is some shit. Damn fucking damn shield shammering motherfuckers. Um, but yeah, so the bylaws are constantly having to get amended or updated, and that also happens with growth,
Oh,
right? You know, because you
Yep.
gotta cover expansion, you gotta cover leadership, you gotta, and when you start out with 2 or 3 chapters, and now you're at 5, and now you're at 10, and Mac Black's gonna learn this. When you hit 50, those fucking bylaws that you wrote when you had 2 chapters ain't gonna really fly no more with 50 chapters.
And I'm so glad you circled it back to growth because this goes for any club. Just because you are 1,000 strong in one state does not mean you get comfortable with the way that things are in your state, that state. Because when you go and you drop that pebble in another pond,
hmm
Yep,
or even in, let's say, your state, you're 1,000 strong and you have this issue and you drop that pebble, but you're not thinking that you got some brothers 3 states away,
they don't.
and that ripple you cause, by the time it reaches those brothers, it's a full on tsunami, and
Yep.
they're
yep,
not going to be able to withstand it. And so when clubs grow, I always try to tell them to keep that in mind. You're dropping this small rock over here, and you're calling it good for them just because you have the safety where you are, and that's not the way it works
yep,
at all.
yep,
Somebody could do something in the states, and by the time it reaches a brother in another country, it's completely different.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and again, it comes back to agendas, right? If you got the wrong agenda on why you're a part of a fucking nation, you can cause straight up havoc and chaos.
Hmm.
Because you don't have your heart's not in the right place anyway. You
hmm
know, you're looking for protection, or you're looking for retaliation or
Yes.
vengeance or something. You're in it for all the wrong reasons. Brotherhood ain't the reason. Damn
Yeah.
sure ain't the reason.
Yeah. Being chasing a piece of pussy around a bar in California could possibly get a brother killed in Georgia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, what
And
do I say?
Exactly.
Uh, Pussy, drugs, and alcohol is what fucking ruins men in clubs.
hmm
You know,
It
takes
does.
down entire fucking clubs. We had a brother Patch not too long ago, and I told him, I said, look, my philosophy is that patch will get you plenty of pussy, but that pussy will get your patch.
oh,
You know
absolutely.
Yep.
it and he
I,
kind of looked at me weird, and I said, you'll see it, huh?
Yep.
I said I think that's why they call it snatch. Bap. Give
Yeah,
me that back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That pussy will take your patch. I've seen it happen over and over and over. You know, Yeah, that's that property of that you were referring to. Guys not training their old ladies. They just figure, well, hey, that's my old lady, man. Let me get a property patch for her. Whoop, hold on, buddy. You need to do some
Oh,
training, man. You need
Yeah.
to do some training. That with that patch, yes, it's respected as far as the women goes, but there's also some rules and responsibilities of wearing it.
Oh
yep.
yeah.
When you decide to put that on her, you better be ready to deal with anything that's gonna fall back on you that she does.
Yeah,
Don't
Oh
yeah,
don't walk around with your lips stuck out because you got your shit snatched because she didn't know how to control her alcohol or her mouth or her character at
ab-
out somewhere. It doesn't work like that.
nope.
yep.
She fucks up, it's on you.
Oh,
Yep,
absolutely.
that's a fact. That
Yep.
is a fact. Well, gentlemen, y'all about ready to wrap this up?
Yeah,
Hey,
we can wrap it up. I don't think we touched on the phases, but I still think that it's great coming back. I do appreciate the conversation with your brothers, and I look forward to the next one. So,
oh, fucking absolutely. It's good to see you guys, man. I miss y'all. I'm not super active in the chat as I used to be, and I haven't I've written some stuff, but I gotta work on my tone. Some of the stuff that I'm writing right now seems it just sounds really angry. It's not angry. It's more like what the fuck. I've just been I've just
So,
been seeing
so
too much, and there's too many podcasts out there. There's too much information out that isn't vetted that's going out on the internet these days that's actually starting shit instead of um like just being educational.
Yeah.
It's weird, and I kind of
well,
get in a weird spot with what we've done. You know what we did with the page that I guess we won't mention, and then four for the road. You know, we really were preaching about um thought provoking stuff and just general knowledge, and then some more specific knowledge, not going after this club or that club or that club or that club. And we were really good about
right.
not allowing, oh well, support your local this or that or the other in the comments
Yes.
and shit like that. But I see a lot of this stuff that was kind of around at the same time that we were really actively involved in it, that's now blown up to just crazy ass shit where the word motorcycle gang gets thrown around so much these days. Oh well, they said it, so I'll say it. And it's like, well, what are you if you're supposed to be, a force or a respected, persona within the MC community? Why are you calling it the MC community when you're throwing around the word motorcycle gang? You're saying you know
Right.
about protocol. Well, change it to MG protocol then, or you know what I mean? Like it just,
Yeah.
I don't know. I get fed up with the amount of stuff that's available, readily accessible on YouTube and
Right.
on a lot of stuff, and it just kind of drives me nuts. It seems like it's stoking the flame instead of being more of a calmer voice that is like, hey, look, we might be hitting a critical mass point where there might be some federal stuff that we've seen what's been going on in Australia and Europe and other parts of the world where they're going after the patch and making it like legit illegal.
Yeah. Well, I
I
have a question for you, Chris, and for
Yeah,
Simon. So part of what has, I guess, I won't call it writer's block, but it's very hard for me to write and disassociate it from things going on. You know, I never say names or places, but I know that when I write it, I know that certain people are going to exactly know whether it's in my nation or another nation. And so for me, I try to stem away from that to keep the page what we started it as. You
right.
know, I'm not getting ready to go on my page to badmouth the things that I don't agree with in my nation or another nation because it's not hard to figure out.
No.
Yeah.
So sometimes for me, it's harder to write because I want to come from a place of neutrality on a subject without it being something that's immediately happening. So it's like, oh, well, he's talking about this, and that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to, if you go back and look at mine, I try to stick with the basics of the lifestyle.
Yep.
You know, um, like at my big like dog tags. I wrote a post on everybody, buying dog tags. And put them around your neck for your next of kin. You know, um, you know, protocol type stuff. I try to really stick to that. Um, because I mean, I don't want to talk about things that are happening in my nation and get myself fucking hemmed up. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Yeah. So I try to revert back to like, hey, what attracted me to this lifestyle? How did I get educated in this lifestyle? What did I learn coming into this lifestyle? That type of stuff. And that's what I try to stick to is that, because yeah, you write some shit that's happening, especially if it's current. Yeah,
Yeah.
your nation probably gonna have a conversation with you, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
and it's never one of those conversations that you're invited to participate in. You
No.
know,
Exactly.
it's usually a
And
one way conversation.
and it doesn't matter if you're writing it from a place of where you learn from it.
Right.
They're not going to see it that way. It's just
No.
not.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, no, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely, it's there. The one thing I do love about the page is that the page has been consistent. Consistent in its
yes,
message, consistent
yes,
in the quality of writing, consistent in talking in brush strokes rather than fine tip ballpoint pen. Right, it's been consistent in uh, inspiring thought and inspiring conversations that
Right.
probably happen at clubhouses across many nations, um, and that reach out over to overseas and shit like that. And that's the one thing that I'm proud of being a part of Four for the Road is that we have definitely, aside from our one little misstep where we got into some just dumb shit because it was fun for us, because we're bikers and we're fucking assholes, and it's fun to have fun sometimes.
Yeah.
But aside from that little misstep, um which we're allowed to have one or two of those, it's been a really positive thing to be a part of.
Right. Yeah, the podcast has always been good for us. I'm 55 years old, and writing was really easy for me when we started this thing, well, back in the sucker free MC days, right?
Yep.
I mean, fuck, you're talking about going on 15 years ago, close to
Yeah,
it,
that's
12 years
that's when
ago.
you that's when you vetted me and brought me in, Silent.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I've been doing this writing thing for a long time, man, and I don't want to say I got burnt out on the life. I got burnt out on writing. Um,
Hmm.
and
that
then
makes sense.
like you, Chris, I went through my series of strokes, and my medical issues. So I stopped writing. What I did do, and Mac Black, you may